Good afternoon, class. Welcome to Unit 5.3, Exploration of the New World, Part 1. So by the early 1400s, Europeans are ready. They're eager and anxious to get beyond their borders. And, the Renaissance has encouraged, among other things, a new spirit of adventure and curiosity. And so this will prompt Europeans to want to explore the world around them. What are the causes and effects of European exploration? Well, they desire new trade routes, growing power of wealth in European nations. There's competition for trade. But ultimately, you can really kind of tie it down into three things. They're going for God to promote Christianity, to serve as missionaries, for glory because they want to be known as emperors, empire of the world. They want to be the one that has conquered all of this particular territory, and also they want to get rich. It's interesting that even in today's society, God, glory, and gold is what drives a lot of people to pursue the things that they want to pursue. So we have these causes and effects for European exploration. They're seeking new trade routes to find spices and luxury goods, and basically they had heard that if we could get past the middleman, the Italian merchants, if we could find a sea route directly to Asia, then basically we're going to be rich. And so they're looking for those trade routes. We've also talked about the spread of Christianity. They believed that they had a sacred duty to convert non-Christians throughout the world, whether it were Muslims or Jews, that they needed to go out. And Bartolomeu Dias, Dias, he was an early Portuguese explorer, and he basically explained his motives. He said it's to serve God and his majesty, to give light to those who are in darkness, and to grow rich as all men desire to do. So while God, glory, and gold are the primary motives, you had to have the technology. You had to have the opportunities that you basically needed to be able to move forward. And so we have these inventions of new ships, which can carry more goods. They can go further distances. We have a compass. We have the astrolabe. All of these are going to help us as it moves forward with navigation. So God, glory, and gold is what we're seeking to accomplish as we move forward in exploring. Well, the first starts off with the Portuguese. They were some of the early explorers. And the king of Portugal, his name was Henry II. He knew that there was gold in West Africa, but he knew that Asia had these spices and all of these other treasures. And he was determined to get those treasures, to get rich, but also to spread the Christian faith. So he establishes a school, and he begins sending Portuguese ships sailing down the western coast of Africa. And before he dies, basically what has happened is they're trading. Portugal is trading with Africans for gold, for ivory, and unfortunately, we'll start seeing slavery come out of this as well. But their main attempt during this time period was to find a sea route that will take them to Asia. They believed that if you wanted to reach Asia through the water, you had to go around the southern tip of Africa. And so once again, we start to see King John sending Bartholomew Dias to the southernmost part of Africa. And so he will go down there in 1487, 1488. And as they arrive, they encounter these terrible storms, and it beats the ships back and forth for days and days. And when the storm had ended, Diaz realized his ships had been blown by the wind around the tip to the other side. So they started exploring the southeastern coast of Africa, and then they considered sailing to India. However, the crew was exhausted, food supplies were low, and so they returned home. But they had done what they had set out to do, which was to go around the tip of Africa. That continued to allow the Portuguese to continue pushing east. We have next looking at Vasco da Gama. He will sail for Portugal with the hopes of going around what's known as the Cape of Good Hope. And they go around and they start exploring India. And he's the first European who successfully makes the trip by sea. So notice if you see our map here, you've got Bartolomé Diaz, who is basically going around, this western coast of Africa and exploring. And then we start to see how Vasco da Gama is able to come across, go all the way into India, where he starts trading. By the way, da Gama's intake, if you will, from that trip, the cargo that he got when he went to India would be worth 60 times the cost of the voyage. It was a remarkable voyage of about 27,000 miles, and it had given Portugal that direct sea route to India. Well, Portugal's not the only one that's interested. We also have Spain that is interested. But you have to remember when we're studying about this that many of the people believed that the earth was flat, not that it was round as you and I understand and are talking about as it relates today. And so this comes from not having any exploration, and many people just thought, hey, the earth is flat, and if you go too far, you'll fall off the earth. Well, it starts to allow people to become educated through exploration, which leads us to the one that we're all familiar with, and his name is Christopher Columbus. And Columbus, he wanted to go to Asia. He wanted to go to China, and he knew that there was only one way to go, and that was to go west. And by the way, remember when we say west, we're talking about going this way, going west. And if he went west, he could reach Asia, and there were gold, spices, riches, and it would benefit him, but it would also benefit his country. But many people said, listen, you can't go that far. It's too far. The ships aren't prepared. You're not going to make it. Nobody's tried to do this, Columbus, and you shouldn't. Well, why hadn't they tried it? Because ancient Greek mathematicians had said that the world had a circumference of about 24,000 miles, which meant that to get from Europe to Asia, going west, it would require 12,000 miles of travel. The ships during this time were too small to carry enough water or food to sustain their crews on a 10,000-mile trip without any contact with land, so this is virtually impossible. But Columbus says, well, you know what? I've done some research and I've done some studying, and I think that those ancient Greek mathematicians were wrong. He thought that the Earth's circumference was 18,000 miles and said it's only about 3,500 miles west to get where I'm going. I can make that. So he decides God, gold, and glory. He's a devout Catholic. He dreams of getting rich, but he also wants to bring about this opportunity of glory. He's an expert sailor. So he goes to Portugal, who has, through Vasco da Gama, Bartolomé Diaz, who has done all of these travels, and he goes to Portugal and he speaks to the king and he says, this is what I want to do. I want to go west and I want to get to Africa, and I'm going to bring you gold, glory, and we're going to bring those people that we find, we're going to bring them God. And the king of Portugal, he meets with his advisors, and the advisors say, sir, his calculations are wrong. There's no way that he can do this. This is going to be a massive failure. He'll starve to death. It's going to make us look bad. And so the king of Portugal rejects his plan. So Columbus then decided to do what? Give up? No, he's not going to give up. He decides to go to Portugal's rival, which is Spain. And he goes to Spain and he says, I know that Spain is in competition, glory. They're trying to get riches, gold, and they also want to spread Christian missionaries. So he goes to Spain. He meets with the king, queen, Ferdinand and Isabella, and he convinces them that his journey, his plan would suit Spain's goals. He says, listen, if I'm successful, you're going to go rich from trade with Asia because nobody's trading with them. You're going to get all the gold. You're going to send Christian missionaries. And he says, look, if I fail, so what? Big deal. It's on me. I'm just a sailor and his crew that dies. No pain on you. So Spain agrees to the journey and tells Columbus, they said, look, if you're successful, we'll give you 10% of the profits. You can become governor of whatever you find, and we'll give you the title Admiral of the Ocean Sea. Remember, there's that glory aspect to it. So in 1492, Columbus sets out on the ocean blue, and he heads out with 3 ships, and a quarter of his way into his trip, which is about 30 days, they come across some branches and sticks that are floating in the water. They start seeing some flocks of birds, which means that land is nearby. A few days later, there's a sailor that is on top of the sails, and he's in the lookout, if you will. And in that early morning, he cries out, "Land, land! I see land!" And what he was looking at was an island that was in the Bahamas, not Asia, not China, but actually part of the Americas. By the way, just an interesting tidbit. Columbus had told the crew that the first man who would give sight to land would be given a yearly salary for the rest of their life. And it was an extremely large amount of money. So for the rest of your life, you'll get a yearly salary if you're the first person to find land. The problem is, the sailor who cried out land, he didn't get the reward. Because Columbus, he said, oh, I actually had seen it the night before, but I didn't want to tell anybody about it because I wanted to wait till morning. So actually, I saw it first, so therefore I deserve the reward. Now, what's interesting is how the discovery of the New World all came about because of a math mistake. You see, Columbus thought that he could make it to China and to Asia, but in reality, all he could make it to was the Americas. However, because of that challenge, because of God and glory and gold, he changed exploration and would change it for the rest of history. And we'll learn what happened when he came across into the Americas in part 2.